What if the person you were told to let go was still fighting to come back? Inside a rain-soaked veterans hospital in Portland, a young man lies silent beneath white sheets machines, breathing for him, doctors speaking about him like he has already left the world. His father, a decorated admiral, is preparing to sign the paper no parent should ever touch. But in the corner of that room stands Maya Reed, a former combat medic who has learned one brutal lesson from war. Sometimes the body whispers before the machines understand. And when Caleb Whitaker's hand gives the smallest answer, everything changes. Watch until the end, because this story is about hope, truth, and the courage to question authority. Like this video and comment where you're watching from. That tiny answer did not make a sound, but it filled the room louder than any alarm. Maya Reed stood beside Caleb Whitaker's bed long after his thumb went still. The ventilator breathed in its patient rhythm. The cardiac monitor blinked green numbers against the dark glass. Rain slid down the window in silver lines, blurring the lights of Portland beyond the 6th floor. Everything in the room looked ordinary. That was the terrible part. The machines did not know something had changed. The chart did not update itself. The signed packet near the counter did not tear itself in half. Caleb's name remained printed at the top of a stack of forms that treated his life like a process already completed. Maya looked at his face. He was 25, though the hospital bed had made him look younger in some ways and older in others. His cheeks had hollowed during the long months of immobility. Dark stubble shaded his jaw. A thin scar curved behind his right ear where surgeons had opened his skull to fight the swelling. His hair had grown unevenly around the shaved patches, soft brown against the white pillow. Someone had once known that face in sunlight. Someone had seen it laughing. Angry, stubborn, alive. Now, everyone who entered this room spoke softly, not because Caleb was sleeping, but because they had already placed him somewhere between person and memory. Maya hated that. She had seen it happen before, in field hospitals, in the back of aircraft, inside canvas tents, where blood dried faster than tears. People sometimes began to speak about the wounded as if they were no longer present. It was not cruelty most of the time. It was protection. The living tried to put distance between themselves and what they could not fix, but Caleb had answered. A thumb pressing into a bedsheet was not much. In another room, on another day, another nurse might have dismissed it and moved on. Bodies twitched, muscles fired, nerves misbehaved after trauma. Maya knew all of that. Still, the movement had followed her command, and command response was a different language. She bent closer, lowering her voice until it was almost part of the ventilator's hiss. "Caleb, I saw it." His eyelids remained closed. "I don't know how much you understand. I don't know how hard it is for you to move. But I saw it." A soft click came from the infusion pump. Maya turned her head, reading the medication labels hanging from the pole. Clear bags, white stickers, black print, midazolam, lorazepam is needed, comfort protocol, comfort. The word sat wrong in her chest. She had seen comfort care. She had given comfort care. There was dignity in easing pain when nothing else could be done. But this did not feel like dignity. It felt like a room where everyone had stopped asking questions because the answers were inconvenient. The door opened behind her. Maya straightened. Linda Carver stepped inside with a paper cup of coffee in one hand and a look sharp enough to cut thread. She had worked the neurological intensive care unit for 23 years. She did not raise her voice. She did not need to. New nurses lowered theirs when Linda entered a room. "You're still here," Linda said. Maya kept her hand near the pump as if she had been checking the line. His pressure was running a little low earlier. "I wanted another look." Linda glanced at the monitor. "It's within range." "Yes, ma'am." Linda's eyes moved from Maya to Caleb, then to the chart counter. Dr. Hale made the call. Maya said nothing. Linda took one step farther into the room. Her shoes made no sound on the polished floor. "You came from military medicine, right?" "Yes." "Then you know what it means when a senior physician signs off." Maya looked at Caleb's hand. I know what signatures mean. That is not what I asked. Maya met her eyes. In the field, a signature never stopped us from checking the patient again. Linda's face did not change, but something hardened around her mouth. This is not the field. Number. Linda leaned closer. And this is not a place where new nurses build reputations by making noise around famous families. Maya felt the warning beneath the words. She also felt the old reflex in her spine, the one that came from years of hearing rank used as a wall. She let the silence stretch just long enough to be noticed. I'm not building anything, Maya said. I'm caring for my patient. Linda studied her for another moment. Then she turned toward the door. Be careful what you call care. When she left, the room seemed smaller. Maya waited until the footsteps faded. Then she looked back at Caleb. They're all scared of your last name, she whispered. I'm starting to think they're more scared of being wrong. His thumb did not move again, but Maya no longer needed it to. The first time Maya had read Caleb Whitaker's chart, it had been 2 a.m. during her 3rd shift at Columbia River Veterans Medical Center. She had been eating a granola bar over a trash can because she had not learned where the quiet break room was yet. The nurse's station was dim. Half the floor was asleep. The other half was pretending. Caleb's file was thicker than most. 4 months of notes. Surgical reports. Imaging summaries. Neurology consults. Respiratory logs. Family meeting documentation. Medication adjustments. Ethics review language. Phrases written to sound clean enough for lawyers. Severe traumatic brain injury. Diffuse axonal injury suspected. Prolonged disorder of consciousness. Poor prognosis. No meaningful response. Family counseled. Maya had paused at that line the first time she saw it. Family counseled. It sounded so harmless, like someone had offered directions. But she knew what those meetings looked like. A room with bad lighting. A doctor sitting with folded hands. A box of tissues placed too carefully on the table. Words chosen to soften the blow, but never soften enough. Caleb's father had attended every meeting. Admiral Nathan Whitaker, United States Navy, retired. His name appeared again and again in the notes, formal and heavy. Father requests additional time. Father asks about transfer options. Father expresses concern about sedation. Father appears resistant to prognosis. Maya had stared at that last sentence. Resistant, a word used when a father refused to let grief move at the hospital's preferred pace. She clicked backward through the file. Before the injury, Caleb Whitaker had not belonged to quiet rooms. He had belonged to cold water hard training and impossible standards. His background was buried in the admission summary, reduced to 2 dry paragraphs. Male, 25, active training candidate in Navy Rescue Swimmer Preparatory Program. Sustained severe head trauma during maritime training incident off the Oregon coast. Submerged impact with metal rigging during equipment failure. Initial Glasgow Coma Scale 3. Emergency evacuation by Coast Guard. Decompressive craniectomy performed on arrival. Maya read the lines twice. A cable snapped. A weighted frame shifted. Caleb's helmet struck steel beneath dark water. By the time the rescue crew pulled him up, he had no spontaneous movement and blood in his ear canal. His body had been cold enough that one emergency physician later wrote, hypothermia may have contributed to survival. May have contributed to survival. Even in the chart, Caleb sounded stubborn. The first surgery lasted 9 hours. The swelling had been catastrophic. The bleeding had been hard to control. Twice, according to the operative note, the surgical team nearly lost him. But Caleb held on. Then came the waiting. 1 week. 2. A month. His father stayed in Portland and rented a small apartment near the river. He came every morning before rounds, and every evening after hospital business slowed. Nurses documented his visits with professional distance. Father at bedside. Father speaking to patient. Father played recorded ocean sounds. Father brought personal item from home. Maya wondered what item. The file did not say. That bothered her too. Civilian hospitals had a way of stripping people down to measurable things. pressure, pulse, saturation, output, dose, response. But soldiers and sailors carried entire lives in small objects: a coin, a patch, a folded photograph, a cheap bracelet from someone who waited back home. Caleb had been someone before he became Room 608. Maya wanted to know who. On her 5th day, she found part of the answer. She had been changing the dressing around Caleb's central line when Admiral Whitaker arrived without an escort. He was tall, late 50s, silver hair cut, close face, carved by command and sleeplessness. He wore civilian clothes, but the military stayed on him like weather. He paused at the doorway and took in the room with one scan. Maya stepped back. "Good morning, sir." His eyes moved to her badge. "Nurse Reed." "Yes, sir. You're new. 9 days tomorrow." He nodded and came to the bedside. He placed one hand on Caleb's shoulder. Not a dramatic gesture, not a performance. Just a father touching his son like touch might keep him tied to earth. "Morning, Cal," he said. His voice changed when he said the name. Less Admiral, more man. Maya busied herself with the line dressing, giving him privacy without leaving the room. She heard the rustle of fabric. When she glanced over, the Admiral was tucking a small blue patch beside Caleb's pillow. It showed a gold rescue swimmer wing over a dark wave. The personal item. His class gave him that, the Admiral said, noticing her glance. He said it was ugly as sin, but he carried it anyway. Maya smiled faintly. "That sounds about right." The Admiral looked at her with tired curiosity. "You military." "Air Force." "Pararescue medic, 6 years." Something shifted in his expression. Not warmth exactly, but recognition. "Then you know about hard-headed young men who think pain is a scheduling issue. I know a few." He looked back at Caleb. He went through a training day with a cracked rib once. Told the instructor it was a breathing inconvenience. The Admiral's mouth almost moved into a smile. Almost. Maya held the clean dressing in place. What was he like before the accident? The question came out before she could stop it. The Admiral did not answer right away. "He was loud," he said finally. Not reckless. People confused the two. Caleb was loud because he wanted everyone afraid of the water to think fear could be laughed at. His fingers smoothed the blanket. When he was 10, he jumped off a dock in February because a neighbor's dog fell through thin ice. Came out blue and shaking, then apologized to the dog for taking too long. Maya looked at Caleb's still face. The machines breathed. The father remembered. The room held both. "He sounds like a rescuer," Maya said. "He wanted to be one." The Admiral swallowed. "Still does, if you ask me, on the wrong day." Maya did not know what to say, so she said the only honest thing: "Maybe today is the wrong day." The Admiral looked at her. For 1 second, something bright and painful crossed his eyes. Then it disappeared behind discipline. Maybe. That was the first time Maya wondered if the hospital had stopped hoping before the family did. By the end of her first week, she had learned the rhythms of the 6th floor. Every unit had its own weather. This one moved under low pressure. The nurses charted carefully. The residents spoke quietly near room 608. Administrators appeared whenever Admiral Whitaker was scheduled for a conference, then vanished as soon as he left. Dr. Hale moved through it all like the building belonged to him. Victor Hale was not loud. Loud doctors were easy to identify and easier to avoid. Hale was worse. He was calm, elegant, precise. He carried his authority like a scalpel, bright and sterile and meant to cut. The residents admired him. The administrators protected him. The nurses worked around him. He had been at Columbia River for 17 years. He had published papers on traumatic brain injury. He had testified in court cases. He had helped build the hospital's neurological review protocol. His framed awards hung outside the conference room where families went in whole and came out changed. On Maya's 7th day, she watched him speak to a young resident who had asked whether Caleb's ventilator logs needed review before the final family meeting. Hale did not raise his voice. He simply looked at the resident until the man's ears turned red. Dr. Patel Hale, said there is a difference between thoroughness and fear. Thoroughness serves the patient. Fear serves the clinician. Which one are you practicing right now? The resident lowered his eyes. Thoroughness, sir. Then practice it efficiently. That ended the question. Maya had been standing close enough to hear. Hale had noticed. His gaze flicked to her badge. Nurse Reed. Doctor. You were military medicine. Yes, sir. Then I'm sure you value chain of command. Maya held his stare. I value clear responsibility. A faint smile touched his mouth. In a hospital, they are often the same thing. He walked away before she could answer. Maya watched him go, feeling the same cold awareness she used to feel before entering a village where the street was too empty. Not fear, a warning from the body. That night, she opened Caleb's chart again. Her apartment was small, furnished by the relocation program, and too quiet. A microwave hummed in the kitchen. Rain tapped the balcony railing. Her uniform jacket hung over a chair, still smelling faintly of antiseptic and coffee. She sat at the table with a notebook open beside the laptop. At first, she told herself she was only being careful. Then she began building a timeline. The pattern formed slowly. Caleb's early notes were detailed. Pupils, withdrawal to pain, posturing, spontaneous respiratory effort, medication timing, edema changes, surgical concerns. Every shift had fresh observation. Then around the 10th week, the language began to flatten. No significant change. Patient remains unresponsive. Continue current management. Family updated. The same phrases appeared so often they seemed copied from one note to the next. Maya turned to the medication administration record. Midazolam had started as intermittent dosing, then scheduled, then increased. Lorazepam appeared later, first as needed, then with broader comfort indications. She wrote the times by hand. 8 in the morning, 8 at night. Peak effect around the morning neurochecks. Her pen stopped moving. She clicked into the last formal neurological review. Assessment time 10:12 a.m. Midazolam administered 8 a.m. She sat back. No, she whispered. She read it again. Then she opened the EEG reports. Low amplitude activity, poor reactivity. Findings consistent with severe global cerebral dysfunction. But lead checks were inconsistently documented. One note mentioned artifact interference. Another mentioned repositioning deferred due to skin breakdown concern. No photograph, no detailed map, no second reader attached to the final summary. Maya rubbed both hands over her face. She had seen bad data kill people. Not dramatically. Not all at once. Bad data killed quietly. A monitor reading trusted when the patient looked wrong. A pressure number accepted because the cuff was convenient. A sedation score charted by someone who had not waited long enough for the patient to answer. In Afghanistan, there had been a young Marine named Collins. Maya still saw him sometimes when she closed her eyes. Dust on his lashes. Blood in one ear. A pulse so weak the monitor lost it every few seconds. A surgeon had said they were losing him. A flight nurse had started preparing the black bag. Then, Javier Morales, a Navy corpsman, with hands steadier than weather, had leaned over Collins and pressed 2 fingers against the side of his neck. Maya had snapped at him. "What are you doing?" Morales had not looked up, asking louder. He counted to 8. Collins's eyelid fluttered. Not enough to save him by itself. Not enough to prove a future. But enough to change the room. Enough to make everyone try harder for 10 more minutes. 10 minutes became a flight. The flight became surgery. 3 months later, Maya saw a photograph of Collins standing between 2 nurses at Walter Reed, thin as a rail, grinning like a thief. Afterward, Morales told her, "Sometimes the brain can't shout. Sometimes it can only tap on the wall." Maya looked at Caleb's medication record. Tap. Thumb press. Tap. Eyelid tremor. Tap. Vital signs changing when his father spoke. She opened the ventilator logs next. There it was. Small, easy to miss. Patient-triggered breaths recorded at irregular intervals. Not many, not consistent, but present. A brain-dead patient did not initiate breaths. A body with no brainstem function did not decide even weakly to pull air. Maya wrote until her hand cramped. At 2:17 a.m., she closed the laptop and sat in the dark. She thought about Caleb under the white sheet. She thought about Admiral Whitaker placing the blue rescue patch near his son's pillow. She thought about Dr. Hale signing the review without touching him. Then she thought about the paper waiting for Friday. The withdrawal packet. 3 days. The next morning, Maya arrived before sunrise. The hospital at that hour felt less like a place of healing and more like a ship between watches. Hallways half-lit. Cleaning carts abandoned near corners. Elevators opening on empty floors. The night staff moved with pale faces and soft shoes, guarding the fragile hour before the day shift brought voices and orders and phones. Maya took the back stairs to the 6th floor. Room 608 was dark except for the monitors. Caleb looked unchanged. That almost hurt. She washed her hands, closed the door, and stood beside him. "Caleb," she said. No response. She kept her voice calm. "It's Maya Reed. I'm going to ask you something simple. Press your right thumb into the sheet if you can hear me." The ventilator sighed. Maya watched his hand. 10 seconds. 20. Nothing. Doubt moved in quick and sharp. She hated doubt, but she respected it. Doubt kept medics from becoming dangerous. Doubt made you check the line twice, read the label again, look at the patient instead of your ego. She waited. 30 seconds. 40. His thumb moved. It pressed down. Weak, slow, real. Maya leaned closer. "Good, that's good." His eyelid trembled. Not fully open. Not even close. Just a flicker under the skin like someone trapped behind a door pushing with the last strength in his body. Maya's throat tightened. She opened her phone and recorded. October 19th, 5:56 a.m. Patient. Caleb Whitaker responded to direct verbal command with right thumb pressure. Response delay approximately 40 seconds. Left eyelid tremor noted immediately afterward. Sedative trough window prior to morning dose. She stopped recording and placed the phone in her pocket. For a moment, she let herself stand there without moving. The hospital had called him unreachable. But unreachable was not the same as gone. A soft knock came at the door. Maya turned. Erin Doyle, the night nurse, stood in the doorway. She was younger than Linda, with tired eyes and a coffee stain on her sleeve. "You okay?" Erin asked. Maya nodded, just checking him before shift change. Erin looked at Caleb, then at Maya. Something in her face suggested she had more to say but had trained herself not to say things on this floor. Maya noticed. What she asked. Erin hesitated. His oxygen saturation jumped last night. Maya went still. How high? 97. It's been sitting around 92 most nights. Sensor issue. I changed it. Same reading. Maya moved to the monitor history. Erin lowered her voice. And he triggered the vent twice between midnight and 3. Maya looked at her. Erin swallowed. I charted it. I wrote what the machine recorded. But I didn't flag it. Why not? Erin glanced toward the hallway. Because Dr. Hale already said those readings were artifact last week. Maya felt anger rise, but she kept it out of her face. Erin did not need anger. She needed a door. Print the log. Erin blinked. What? The ventilator log. Print it before it rolls off the quick view. Erin looked toward the hallway again. Maya. Print it. Erin studied her for a long second, then nodded. When Erin left, Maya turned back to Caleb. "People are starting to hear you," she said softly. "Not enough yet. But some." At 7 a.m., the unit changed shape. Day shift arrived in waves of perfume-wet coats, badge reels, and tired greetings. Phones began ringing. Breakfast trays rolled past. Residents appeared with tablets. The quiet hour disappeared as if it had never existed. Maya carried Caleb's morning numbers to the nurse's station. Linda stood there reviewing assignments. Her eyes dropped to the paper in Maya's hand. "You're very interested in room 608. He's my patient. He is everyone's patient. No, Maya said before she could stop herself. That's the problem. Linda looked up slowly. The station seemed to quiet around them. Maya knew she should step back. She knew how this worked. New nurses survived by learning the edges of power and staying away from them. She had lasted in combat medicine because she understood hierarchy, but she had also survived because she understood when hierarchy turned into a blindfold. Linda lowered her voice. Come with me. They stepped into the medication room. The door shut. Linda folded her arms. Say what you think you're saying. Maya looked through the small glass window at Caleb's room down the hall. I think he is showing inconsistent but purposeful responses. I think sedation may be suppressing his exam. I think the ventilator logs matter. I think the EEG documentation is weak. And I think Dr. Hale is moving toward withdrawal based on a conclusion that needs to be challenged. Linda stared at her. For a long moment, only the refrigerator hummed. Then Linda spoke carefully. You are accusing a senior neurologist of negligence. I'm saying the patient needs reassessment. That is the polite version. It's the accurate version. Linda's jaw tightened. You do not know this hospital. I know patients. You do not know Hale. I know men like Hale. Linda stepped closer. No, you don't. You know officers who bark orders in tents. Hale does not bark. Hale documents. Hale chairs committees. Hale survives complaints because he makes the complaint look foolish before it learns to stand. Maya absorbed that. Linda continued quieter now. That boy's father has already been through hell. Do not give him a match and call it sunrise unless you are ready to stand in the fire with him. Maya did not answer at first. Then she said he moved when I asked him to. Linda's expression changed just slightly. You saw that. Twice. Linda looked away. For the first time since Maya had met her, the charge nurse seemed less certain. But only for a second. Chart what you observed. Objective language only. No interpretation. No heroics. Maya reached for the door. Linda stopped her. And Maya, she turned. If you go to Hale with this, bring more than your word. Maya nodded. I intend to. By late morning, Maya had printed the ventilator log, copied the medication times, and transcribed her voice memos into a private document. She kept everything factual. Times, movements, delays, medication windows, observed changes. No drama. No accusation. Evidence did not need volume. At 11:20 a.m., she found Dr. Hale outside the neuroconference room. He was speaking with Dr. Patel, the resident from the day before. The moment Hale saw Maya waiting, his face settled into professional impatience. Nurse Reed. Dr. Hale. I need to report new observations on Caleb Whitaker. Dr. Patel looked down at his tablet. Hale glanced at his watch. You have 30 seconds. Maya handed him a single page. Patient followed verbal command twice with right thumb pressure during low sedation window. Left eyelid tremor observed. Ventilator logs show patient-triggered breaths overnight. Oxygen saturation improved above recent baseline. I'm requesting independent neurological reassessment before any withdrawal decision. Hale did not take the page at first. Then he did, holding it between two fingers. His eyes moved over the top line. That is not how this works. Maya kept her voice even. I believe the findings justify review. You believe? Yes. He looked at Dr. Patel. Doctor, what is the danger of inexperienced interpretation in prolonged disorders of consciousness? Dr. Patel's face went tense. Misclassification of reflexive activity as purposeful response. Correct. Hale turned back to Maya. Families cling to movements. Nurses sometimes do too. That does not make those movements meaningful. The response followed command. Coincidence. More than once. Repetition does not equal consciousness. Neither does a chart note equal absence of it. Dr. Patel looked up sharply. Hale's eyes narrowed. The hallway seemed to tighten. Maya knew she had crossed a line. She also knew Caleb was lying in room 608 with a signed packet moving through the system like a blade. Hale stepped closer, lowering his voice. Let me be very clear. Mr. Whitaker has suffered catastrophic brain injury. He has shown no reliable evidence of conscious awareness under repeated evaluation. His father is a grieving man with rank and influence, which makes this situation delicate. If you introduce unsupported claims into that grief, you will do harm. Maya held his gaze. If I stay silent and he is aware I do harm. For the first time, Hale's composure thinned. You are not qualified to make that determination. No, Maya said. That's why I'm asking for someone qualified to reassess him. Hale folded the page and handed it back. Request denied. Maya did not take it. The folded paper hung between them. Dr. Patel stared at the floor. Hale's mouth tightened. Chart your observation if you must. Do not contact the family. Do not perform unauthorized assessments. Do not interfere with the care plan. Maya took the paper. Understood. Hale walked past her. His shoulder brushed hers light enough to be accidental, deliberate enough not to be. Maya stood there until he disappeared around the corner. Then she looked down at the folded page in her hand. Request denied. 2 words unspoken but absolute. She returned to room 608. Caleb lay still beneath the pale blanket. The blue rescue swimmer patch rested near his pillow where the Admiral had left it. Maya picked it up carefully and turned it in her hand. The stitching was worn at the edges. Someone had carried it often. Maybe Caleb, maybe his father, maybe both. She placed it back beside him. Your doctor says I'm wrong, she said. The monitor blinked. I hope you're stubborn. Outside the room, the floor kept moving. Nurses charted. Residents rounded. Phones rang. Somewhere a printer jammed and someone cursed under their breath. Life continued in all its ordinary noise. Maya stood at the bedside and watched Caleb's hand. No movement came. She waited anyway, because waiting when done right was not passive. It was an act of attention. And attention was the one thing Caleb Whitaker had been denied for too long. When her lunch break came, Maya did not go to the cafeteria. She went to the stairwell at the east end of the unit, the one no one used because it smelled faintly of bleach and old concrete. She sat on the 3rd step from the landing and opened Caleb's chart on her tablet one more time. The legal contact page stared back. Admiral Nathan Whitaker. Maya's thumb hovered over the number. She heard Linda's warning. Do not give him a match and call it sunrise unless you are ready to stand in the fire with him. Maya closed her eyes. She saw Caleb's thumb press down. She saw his eyelid tremble. She saw his father's hand smoothing the blanket. Then she heard Dr. Hale's voice. Request denied. Maya opened her eyes. Her thumb moved toward the call button, then stopped. Maya stared at Admiral Nathan Whitaker's number until the digits blurred on the screen. The stairwell smelled of bleach and wet concrete. Somewhere above her, a door opened and closed. Footsteps passed, then faded. The hospital kept breathing through its walls, calm and mechanical, as if a young man's life had not just been reduced to a decision made in a hallway. She lowered the phone into her lap. Calling Caleb's father without physician approval would not be a small mistake. It would be written up as misconduct before anyone bothered asking why she had done it. Dr. Hale would call it emotional interference. Linda would call it professional suicide. Hospital legal would call it unauthorized family contact. But Caleb's thumb had moved. Not once. Not maybe. Twice. Maya looked down at her hands. They had not shaken during helicopter landings under gunfire. They had not shaken while packing wounds by red light in the back of a transport aircraft. They had not shaken while pressing on a young soldier's chest until her arms burned and the medic beside her told her to stop. Now, inside a clean stairwell in Portland, they trembled around a phone. She hated that. Not the fear itself. Fear was information. Fear told you the situation mattered. She hated the question hiding inside it. Was she doing this for Caleb, or because she could not live with being silent? Maya closed her eyes. For a second, the stairwell disappeared. She was back inside a field hospital outside Kandahar, crouched beside a Marine whose body had gone limp after an explosion tore through his convoy. Everyone had moved fast until they stopped moving fast. That was how death entered a room, not with screaming, with stillness, with people deciding no more effort would change the outcome. Then Javier Morales had pushed through them and placed 2 fingers against the Marine's neck. Asking louder, he had said. 8 seconds later, the Marine's eyelid flickered. Maya opened her eyes. Her phone screen had dimmed. Admiral Whitaker's number was still there. She pressed call. The line rang 4 times before a clipped male voice answered. Admiral Whitaker's office. Maya sat straighter. My name is Maya Reed. I'm a registered nurse at Columbia River Veterans Medical Center. I'm calling about Caleb Whitaker. A pause. Is this an emergency? Maya looked up through the narrow window in the stairwell door. A nurse in blue scrubs passed without seeing her. Yes, Maya said. But not the kind you think. The man on the line hardened. Medical updates go through attending staff. I know the procedure. I'm calling because the attending staff is wrong. Silence opened on the other end. Ma'am, I need your full name again. Nurse Maya Reed. Neurological ICU. Badge number 4172. Room 608. Caleb Whitaker. Severe traumatic brain injury 4 months ago after maritime training accident off the Oregon coast. Scheduled withdrawal discussion pending Friday. The aide said nothing. Maya continued before he could dismiss her. This morning, at 5:56, the patient responded to verbal command with right thumb pressure. I observed the same response yesterday. He also demonstrated left eyelid tremor and possible spontaneous respiratory effort recorded overnight. I believe the current care plan is based on incomplete neurological reassessment. The aide's voice dropped. Are you alleging malpractice? I'm alleging that Caleb Whitaker may be aware. The silence changed. It became careful. You understand what you just said? Yes. You understand who his father is? Yes. You understand what happens if you are wrong? Maya leaned her head back against the concrete wall. Yes? Hold. The line clicked. For nearly a minute, there was nothing but faint static and the sound of Maya's own breathing. She looked at the stair treads beneath her shoes. A small dried leaf had somehow found its way inside and stuck to the damp edge of the landing. It looked absurdly fragile there, trapped in a building made of steel and rules. The aide returned. Admiral Whitaker is unavailable. Maya closed her eyes. Then make him available. Excuse me. Tell him his son moved on command. Tell him the nurse who saw it is willing to say it under oath. Tell him if he waits for the official update, it may be too late. The aide exhaled through his nose. Do not leave your phone. The line ended. Maya sat in the stairwell with the dead screen in her palm. For the next 20 minutes, nobody called. She returned to the unit because hiding would only make her look guilty. She charted vitals. She answered a call light for a retired Army mechanic who wanted ice chips and complained that the pudding tasted like wallpaper paste. She helped reposition a stroke patient whose wife kept apologizing every time she asked a question. She checked Caleb's medication pump and documented the rate exactly as ordered. Every ordinary task felt sharpened at the edges. At 1:08 p.m., her phone vibrated in her scrub pocket. Unknown caller. Maya stepped into the supply alcove and answered. This is Maya Reed. A man's voice came through low and controlled. This is Nathan Whitaker. The hospital noise faded. Maya held the phone tighter. Admiral, I was told you contacted my office about my son. Yes, sir. I was also told you claimed he responded to you. He did. A long pause followed. Maya could hear nothing from his side, not even breath. When he spoke again, his voice was quieter. 5 physicians have told me my son has no meaningful chance of recovery. I read that in the file. They told me movements can happen in bodies with no awareness. They can. They told me families often mistake reflex for response. They do. Then why are you calling me? Maya looked through the alcove opening toward Caleb's room. His door stood partly open. The ventilator tubing curved from the machine to his mouth like a question nobody wanted answered. Because your son's movement followed a command. Because his responses appear stronger when sedation is lower. Because the ventilator logs show possible patient-initiated breaths. Because the last neurological assessment was performed after sedative administration. Because the EEG lead checks are incomplete. And because Dr. Hale refused to reassess him. The Admiral did not answer. Maya could imagine him standing somewhere still, maybe in an office, maybe beside a window, maybe with one hand braced on a desk because hope was sometimes more dangerous than grief. "Do you know what hope does to a father after 4 months?" he asked. The question hit her in the chest. "Yes, sir, I think I do." "No," he said, not cruelly, "you don't." Maya accepted that. "You're right, I don't." His breathing came through then, faint but heavy. "If you are wrong, you are not just mistaken. You are putting a blade in a wound that has not closed." "I know." "Do you?" Maya looked down at her shoes. The rubber soles were stained with hospital dust and rainwater. "Admiral, I have watched people die while their families begged us to find something that was not there. I have also watched people live because one person in the room refused to accept a bad answer too quickly. I cannot promise you your son will recover. I cannot promise you what he understands. But I am telling you as carefully as I know how I believe Caleb is still trying to answer." The Admiral said nothing for so long that Maya thought the call had dropped. Then he asked, "What do you want from me?" "Come to the hospital tomorrow morning at 5:40. "Why then?" "His scheduled sedative dose is at 8. The late dose is at 8 tonight. Before the morning dose, the medication level should be lower. That gives us the best chance to see a response. You want me to come without notifying the hospital?" "Yes." "That sounds like a breach of protocol." "It is." "And you are asking me to participate?" "Yes, sir." The faintest sound came through the line. Not a laugh. Something colder. "You have Nerve Nurse Reed?" Maya looked at Caleb's room again. "No, sir. I have a patient running out of time." The Admiral was silent. Then he said, "What exactly did he do?" Maya swallowed. "I asked him to press his right thumb into the sheet if he could hear me. He did. Yesterday and today. Today his left eyelid moved immediately after. A small sound entered the line like a chair shifting, or a man sitting down too hard. His right thumb, the Admiral said. Yes. When Caleb was a boy, he used to tap his thumb twice when he wanted me to stop talking in church." Maya closed her eyes. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then the Admiral's voice returned, changed in a way she could not name. "If this is a coincidence, it is a cruel one." "Yes, sir." "And if it is not?" Maya looked toward the chart counter where the withdrawal packet had been placed that morning. "Then he needs someone with enough authority to slow this hospital down." The Admiral breathed once. "I'll be there at 5:40. "Sir, one more thing." "What?" "Do not tell Dr. Hale." The line went very still. When the Admiral answered, his voice had gone flat. "You think he would interfere?" "I think I have reason to be careful." "That is not an answer." "It is the safest answer I can give you right now." Another pause. "Understood." The call ended. Maya stood in the alcove with the phone still pressed to her ear. She had done it. The line had been crossed. There was no walking back to the safe side of it and pretending her shoes were clean. When she returned to the nurse's station, Linda was waiting. She did not ask where Maya had been. She looked at Maya's face and knew enough. "You made a call," Linda said. Maya kept her voice low. "Yes." Linda's eyes narrowed. "Tell me you did not call the family." Maya did not answer. Linda set down the chart in her hand with dangerous care. "Jesus, Maya. I told him what I observed. You went around Hale. Hale refused reassessment. You went around the attending physician, the charge nurse, the chief medical officer, and hospital administration." "Yes?" Linda leaned closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "You have no idea how fast they can end you." Maya looked at her. "I know exactly how fast Caleb's paperwork is moving." Linda's anger faltered, then returned wearing something heavier. "You think being right protects you. Number? Good, because it doesn't." Maya glanced toward room 608. "I'm not trying to be protected. That makes you reckless." "No," Maya said. "Reckless would be ignoring a conscious patient because the wrong man signed a note." Linda's face tightened. For a second, Maya thought she might report her immediately. Linda looked toward the physician workroom, then back at Maya. When is he coming? Maya hesitated. Linda's voice sharpened. If you have already dragged us into a war, do not insult me by pretending there are no troop movements. Tomorrow morning, 5:40. Linda closed her eyes for half a second. Then she opened them. I did not hear that. Maya nodded. Linda picked up the chart again. And if you do anything to that patient outside standard nursing care before he arrives, I will stop you myself. Maya held her gaze. Understood. The rest of the shift moved like a countdown hidden under ordinary time. At 3 o'clock, Maya helped transfer a patient to step-down. At 3:40, she called pharmacy about a missing antibiotic. At 4:15, she found Dr. Patel in the hallway staring toward Caleb's room like a man trying to decide whether conscience had a voice. You saw the note I gave, Dr. Hale, Maya said. He startled. I should get back. Did you review the ventilator log? His face answered before he did. Maya, did you? Dr. Patel looked down the hall to make sure no one was close. There were a few patient-triggered breaths, but those can happen because of circuit sensitivity. Did you check the settings? He rubbed his forehead. Number. Why not? Because Dr. Hale said it was artifact. Maya stepped closer. Do you believe that? Dr. Patel's jaw worked. I believe I am a resident. That is not what I asked. He looked at her, then tired and scared and young. I do not know what I believe. Maya softened. Then look. You do not have to believe me. Just look. Dr. Patel said nothing, but when he walked away, he did not go to the physician lounge. He went toward the respiratory therapy station. That was something. Small but real. By the time Maya's shift ended, Portland had turned gray and wet beyond the hospital windows. She signed out, her patients gave Linda nothing extra to report, and walked to the parking garage with her shoulders tight beneath her jacket. She expected to feel relief once she left the building. Instead, the distance made everything worse. Inside the hospital, Caleb was close enough for her to check. Outside, he was just a man in a bed surrounded by people who had already decided what his silence meant. Her apartment lights flickered when she turned them on. Maya dropped her bag beside the kitchen table and opened the case file she had started the night before. The pages had multiplied into stacks. Medication logs, ventilator printouts, handwritten notes, a timeline, her voice memo transcripts, a copy of Dr. Hale's denial documented in her own shift note. She read everything again, then again. Every sentence had to be factual. No anger, no accusation without support, no language that could be dismissed as emotional. At 8:17 p.m., her phone rang. Javier Morales. She answered before the second ring. You finally calling to tell me you took up gardening, he said. Maya almost smiled. I need your help. His tone changed. Where are you? Portland. Are you hurt? No, I have a patient. That is usually worse. Maya sat down. 25-year-old male. Severe traumatic brain injury. 4 months unresponsive. Scheduled withdrawal discussion in 3 days. I observed command following during a low sedation window. Thumb pressure, eyelid movement, possible directed hand response. Sedation may be masking consciousness. EEG documentation is weak. Morales was quiet. Maya, I need you to talk me through the technique. Number. She closed her eyes. Javi. No, not in a civilian hospital. Not without physician order. Not with lawyers breathing through the vents. He is still in there. You do not know that. I know enough. You know a movement. You know a pattern. You know a feeling. Feelings are not clearance. Maya stood and paced the kitchen. I called his father. Morales cursed softly. Of course you did. He is coming at 5:40. Maya, listen to me. That technique was never approved. It was never published. We used it in places where the alternative was dirt and a prayer. It worked on Collins. Collins also had a neurosurgeon 5 minutes away and a flight team ready. This patient has a neurologist who refuses to look. Morales went silent. Maya lowered her voice. I need to know the exact placement again. Pressure, duration, contraindications, everything. You remember. I want to hear you say it." For a long moment, only the rain filled the apartment windows. Then Morales sighed. "Left cervical area. Find the carotid pulse, then move slightly posterior toward the sternocleidomastoid border. Moderate pressure. Not deep. Never occlude both sides. 8 seconds only. Watch heart rate. Stop if bradycardia drops hard, if rhythm changes, if blood pressure tanks. It is not magic. It is a knock on the arousal system. Sometimes nobody answers." Maya wrote every word, even though she already knew it. "How many cases did you document?" 6. "Can you send me the reports?" Number. Javi. "You are asking me to hand you a match while you stand in gasoline. I am asking you to help me keep a man from being buried alive under a diagnosis that may be wrong." Morales breathed out slowly. "You always did know where to put the knife. I learned from you. That is low. It is accurate." Another silence. "Then I will send the reports. Redacted. Witness statements included. They will not save you if this goes wrong." "I know." "No, you do not. If the patient does not respond, Hale will eat you alive. If he crashes, they will put the whole thing on your hands. If the father turns on you, nobody in that hospital will remember your name except to curse it." Maya stopped pacing. "And if he responds?" Morales did not answer. Maya said, "If he responds, Caleb Whitaker gets one more chance." The email arrived 12 minutes later. 6 field reports. Scanned statements. Notes in Morales' square handwriting. Each one a little piece of proof from a world civilian hospitals preferred not to acknowledge. Maya printed them all. At 10:43 she made coffee she did not want and taped a timeline to her kitchen wall. At 11:30 she reviewed medication peaks. At midnight she wrote a statement in case she was suspended before she could speak. At 1:15 she sat on the floor with her back against the cabinet and let fear come all the way in. It had waited politely long enough. Fear asked its questions. What if Caleb did not move? What if Hale was right? What if a grieving father walked into room 608 and watched nothing happen? What if Maya had mistaken a dying nervous system for a trapped human being? She let the questions hit. Then she answered them the only way she could, with the record. Thumb response after command. Eyelid tremor. Ventilator trigger. Saturation change. Sedation timing. Incomplete EEG checks. One fact did not prove the truth, but together they formed a trail. And trails mattered. In the field, trails led to wounded men. Trails led out of ambushes. Trails led through smoke when the map failed. At 2 a.m., Maya packed the folder. At 3:10, she showered. At 3:45, she dressed in clean scrubs. At 4:15, the alarm rang, but she was already standing in the dark kitchen holding Caleb Whitaker's file against her chest as rain moved across the window like static. She looked at the clock, then at the phone. No messages from the Admiral. No messages from the hospital. No warning. Maya turned off the lights and stepped into the cold morning. By 5:18, she was in the staff parking garage. The hospital rose above her bright windows stacked against the black sky. Somewhere on the 6th floor, Caleb Whitaker lay under white sheets breathing with a machine waiting for a father who had been told to say goodbye. Maya entered through the staff door. The hallway smelled of coffee disinfectant and rain. She took the stairs instead of the elevator. At the 6th floor landing, she paused with her hand on the door bar. For 1 second, she allowed herself to feel the full weight of what she had done. Then she pushed the door open. Room 608 waited at the end of the hall. The lights were low. The machines were steady. And from the far elevator just before 5:40 came the sound of polished shoes crossing the tile with military precision. The sound reached Maya before the man did. Polished shoes, measured pace, no hesitation. She stood outside room 608 with Caleb Whitaker's file tucked under one arm and her hand resting against the cold door frame. The hallway lights were still dimmed for night shift. At the far end of the corridor, the elevator doors opened fully, and Admiral Nathan Whitaker stepped out alone. He wore a dark overcoat, gray slacks, and a white shirt open at the collar. No uniform, no medals, no aid, but the military moved with him anyway. It was in the straight line of his back, the scan of his eyes, the way the nurses at the station lowered their voices without knowing why. He saw Maya and walked toward her. For a moment, the hospital seemed to hold its breath. When he stopped in front of her, Maya noticed how tired he looked. Not weak, not broken, just worn down in the private places rank could not protect. His eyes were red at the edges. His jaw was freshly shaved. His hands hung still at his sides, but the fingers flexed once like they were looking for something to hold. "Nurse Reed," he said. "Admiral." He looked past her through the glass panel in the door. Caleb lay inside, still and pale, beneath the monitor glow. The Admiral's face did not change, but Maya saw the muscles tighten in his neck. "Has anything changed since we spoke?" "No, sir. His vitals are stable. Last sedative dose was at 8 o'clock last night. We are in the lowest window before the morning dose." He turned his eyes back to her. "You sound like you have rehearsed that." "I have." "Good." A pause passed between them. Not awkward, too heavy for that. The Admiral lowered his voice. "If he does not respond, you tell me plainly. No softening, no stories, no mercy dressed up as medicine." Maya nodded. "Yes, sir. And if I ask you whether I am watching my son or only a reflex, you answer like a medic, not like someone trying to save herself." Maya felt the words land. She deserved them. He had been pulled to this hallway by one impossible phone call. A stranger had placed hope in his hands without permission. She held his gaze. "I will tell you exactly what I see." The Admiral studied her for another second. Then he nodded toward the room. "Show me." Maya opened the door. Room 608 smelled faintly of antiseptic plastic tubing and the warm, mechanical breath of the ventilator. The monitors painted green and blue light across Caleb's face. Rain tapped the window with soft fingers. Somewhere in the wall, oxygen whispered through a line. The Admiral stepped inside and stopped at the foot of the bed. Maya did not rush him. He looked at his son the way a man looks at land after months at sea. As if the sight alone could hurt him. As if looking away would be worse. "Morning, Cal," he said. His voice changed on the name again. It lost command. It became something rawer. Caleb did not move. The ventilator filled his lungs. The Admiral moved closer, one careful step at a time, until he stood beside the bed. He touched the blue rescue swimmer patch near Caleb's pillow. "You still carrying this ugly thing," he whispered. Maya checked the monitor. Heart rate 86. Oxygen saturation 93, blood pressure steady. She noted the numbers because numbers could defend a moment later when memory was attacked. She moved to Caleb's left side. "Admiral, I am going to speak to him first. Then I am going to use a stimulation technique I learned in military medicine. It is non-invasive. 2 fingers at the side of the neck. 8 seconds. I will watch his heart rate the whole time." The Admiral's eyes sharpened. "Is it approved here?" "No, sir." "Is it dangerous?" "It can affect heart rhythm if done improperly. I will stop immediately if there is any instability." He looked at her hand. "Have you done this before?" Maya told the truth. "I have seen it done in the field. I have practiced the placement. I have not used it on a civilian patient." The air changed. The Admiral looked from Maya to Caleb. "You called me here for something you have never done in this hospital." "Yes. That is either courage or arrogance." Maya swallowed. "I have spent all night trying to decide which one." For the first time, something like respect moved through his expression, but it did not stay. "Proceed." Maya leaned close to Caleb's ear. "Caleb, it's Maya Reed. Your father is here." The monitor continued its steady rhythm. The Admiral stood on the other side of the bed, motionless. "Caleb, if you can hear me, I need you to try. Move your right hand toward your father's voice." Maya placed 2 fingers at the side of Caleb's neck. She found the carotid pulse, then shifted carefully back, feeling for the place Morales had described. Not too deep. Not too broad. Controlled pressure. Her eyes flicked to the monitor. Heart rate, 86. She pressed. 1, she whispered. The Admiral stared at Caleb's hand. 2, the ventilator hissed. 3, rain struck the window. 4, Caleb's heart rate rose to 89. 5, Maya kept the pressure steady. 6, the Admiral's knuckles whitened around the bed rail. 7, Maya watched the monitor. 8, she released. Nothing happened. The room became painfully quiet. 5 seconds. 10. 15. The Admiral's face began to close, not with anger, but with something worse. Protection. He was building the wall again. Brick by brick. The wall a father builds when hope turns cruel. Maya held up one hand without looking away from Caleb. Wait. 20 seconds. Caleb's right thumb shifted. The Admiral inhaled sharply. The thumb pressed into the sheet. Then his fingers trembled. Slowly, with terrible effort, Caleb's hand lifted off the mattress. Less than an inch. Barely enough to cast a shadow. Then it dropped back down. The Admiral did not move. His eyes were fixed on Caleb's hand. Maya watched the monitor. Heart rate 97. Blood pressure rising. Oxygen saturation 94. Admiral, she said softly, that was not his baseline. His voice came out rough. Again, Maya nodded. She leaned close to Caleb. Caleb, your father is right here. He is standing on your right side. If you can hear him move toward his voice. The Admiral leaned over the bed. Cal, he said, his voice breaking on the single syllable. It's Dad. Maya placed her fingers again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. She released. This time Caleb's eyelids moved first. Not open. Not even close. But beneath the skin his eyes shifted as if tracking something through darkness. Then his right hand opened. The fingers spread. The hand lifted, shaking with effort. Slowly, impossibly, it turned toward the Admiral. Nathan Whitaker made a sound Maya had heard only a few times in her life. Not a sob. Not a word. A sound from somewhere below language where grief and hope collided too hard for the body to contain. He reached for his son's hand. The moment his fingers touched Caleb's palm, Caleb's hand closed. Weakly, but it closed. The Admiral sank into the chair beside the bed, as if his legs had finally received permission to fail. I'm here, he whispered. I'm right here, son. I'm right here. Caleb's grip tightened once. The monitor registered it like an alarmed witness. Heart rate 102. Respiratory effort uneven. Blood pressure climbing. Maya stepped back, one hand pressed against her own ribs. She had wanted proof. She had not been prepared for the sound of a father getting his son back one finger at a time. The Admiral bent forward until Caleb's hand touched his forehead. His shoulders shook once. Then again. He fought it. Lost. Fought it again. Maya looked toward the door. No one was there. For a few seconds, the world belonged only to the three of them and the machines that had been wrong to call this silence empty. When the Admiral finally lifted his head, his eyes were wet, but his voice had changed. The father was still there, but the commander had returned behind him. What do you need? Maya had already made the list. She had repeated it all night until the words lived in her bones. An independent neurologist. Someone outside this hospital. Full review of sedation ventilator logs and EEG placement. The morning sedative dose held until reassessment if a physician will write it. Caleb's family meeting postponed. All withdrawal documents frozen. Names. Dr. Evelyn Shaw at Johns Hopkins has published on prolonged disorders of consciousness and misdiagnosis after traumatic brain injury. She has testified in medical review cases. The Admiral took out his phone with his free hand. Write it down. Maya pulled a pen from her pocket and wrote the name on the back of a medication label. The Admiral looked at it once. Anything else? Yes, sir. He looked up. Dr. Hale will try to explain this away. The Admiral's face went still. He already has. He may call it reflex activity. He may say your presence influenced interpretation. He may say I acted outside scope. Did you? Maya answered without flinching. Yes. The Admiral's hand tightened around his son's. Why tell me that? Because they will use it. And because if I start hiding pieces of the truth, I become part of the thing I am fighting. The Admiral stared at her for a long moment. Then he placed the medication label in his coat pocket. Let them use it. At 6:12 a.m., the first ripple hit the unit. A respiratory therapist walked past room 608, glanced through the glass, and froze when he saw Admiral Whitaker sitting beside Caleb. He tried to keep walking. Failed. Looked again. Then disappeared toward the nurse's station faster than he had arrived. At 6:19, Linda Carver entered. She stopped just inside the room. Her eyes went to the Admiral, then to Maya, then to Caleb's hand still resting inside his father's grip. What happened? She asked. The Admiral answered before Maya could. My son moved. Linda's face tightened in professional self-defense. Sir, patients with severe neurological injury can exhibit reflexive movement. The Admiral looked at her. He turned his hand toward my voice. Linda looked at Maya. Maya did not speak. Linda moved to the monitor and reviewed the recent trend. She saw the heart rate jump, the respiratory changes, the timing. Her mouth pressed into a line. Did you stimulate him? Maya nodded. Yes. Linda closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, anger and fear were fighting across her face. You had no order. Number. You had no physician present. Number. You understand what they are going to do with that. Yes. The Admiral stood. The movement was quiet, but the room changed around it. Nurse Carver, my son, responded in my presence. I want the attending physician notified, the chief medical officer notified, and no change made to his support or medication until I speak with both. Linda looked at him. Whatever warning she had prepared for Maya died before it became sound. Yes, Admiral. She left the room. Maya exhaled slowly. The Admiral looked at his son again. Caleb hated when people hovered. Maya almost smiled. He may have to tolerate it today. By 6:45, the hallway outside room 608 had filled with controlled panic. Nobody ran. Running meant emergency, and hospitals disliked admitting emergencies caused by themselves. But people moved quickly. A unit clerk whispered into a phone. 2 residents appeared and pretended to review another patient's chart while stealing looks through the glass. Linda spoke with the nursing supervisor in a voice too low to carry. At 7:05, Dr. Alan Briggs, the chief medical officer, arrived in a navy suit and no tie. He looked as if he had dressed while still arguing with someone on the phone. Admiral Whitaker, he said, stepping into the room with practiced concern. I was not aware you were visiting this morning. That was intentional. Briggs blinked. I understand there has been some confusion. The Admiral turned from the bedside. There is no confusion. My son moved his hand toward my voice and gripped my fingers. Briggs glanced at Maya. Maya, is that your interpretation? The Admiral's voice hardened. That is my observation. Briggs swallowed. Of course. Sir, I only mean that neurological patients can present complex motor patterns that may appear purposeful. I asked for an independent neurologist. Dr. Hale is the lead neurologist on this case. He is highly qualified. I did not ask for his resume. Briggs went silent. The Admiral stepped closer. My son is scheduled for a withdrawal decision based on a determination I now believe is unreliable. I want an outside specialist with no connection to this hospital. Today, Admiral, arranging outside consultation on such short notice is complicated. The Admiral's expression did not change. I commanded operations in 3 oceans, Dr. Briggs. Complicated is not a synonym for impossible. Briggs's face paled slightly. I will make calls. You will make the call I give you. The Admiral handed him the label with Dr. Shaw's name. Briggs looked at it, then at Maya. He understood immediately where the name had come from. Maya met his eyes. He looked away first. At 8:03, Dr. Victor Hale arrived. Unlike Briggs, Hale looked perfectly dressed, perfectly composed, and perfectly furious beneath the surface. He entered room 608 without knocking. Admiral, he said, I understand there has been concern about observed movement. The Admiral remained beside Caleb. You understand less than you think. Haley's eyes flicked to Maya. Nurse Reed, leave us. No, the Admiral said. Hale turned back to him. Sir, medical discussions of this nature should occur between physicians and family. She stays. For the first time, Hale's polished calm showed a hairline crack. As you wish. He approached the bed and looked down at Caleb, then at the monitor. Severe brain injury patients often demonstrate spinally mediated responses. Grasp reflexes. Startle reflexes. Postural motor patterns. These can be distressing for families when misunderstood. The Admiral said nothing. Hale continued. I am sorry Nurse Reed placed you in that position. Maya felt the sentence like a blade sliding between ribs. The Admiral looked at her, then back at Hale. You are sorry my son moved. I am sorry the movement was misrepresented. Maya spoke quietly. His hand turned toward auditory stimulus after command. Hale did not look at her. Nurse Reed is not qualified to determine purposeful response. Then bring in someone who is, the Admiral said. We have already conducted appropriate evaluations. Under sedation. Hale paused. Maya watched his face. Only a flicker. But there. The medication regimen is clinically appropriate, Hale said. Then, an outside neurologist should have no issue confirming that. Hale's jaw tightened. Outside review may delay necessary family closure. The Admiral stepped closer to him. My son is not a scheduling inconvenience. Silence fell. Hale held the Admiral's stare for 2 seconds, then lowered his eyes first. I will speak with Dr. Briggs. No, the Admiral said. You will provide the complete record. Medication history, EEG raw data. Apnea testing notes. Ventilator logs and every neurological assessment from the last 4 months. That is an extensive request. It is my son. Hale's gaze shifted again to Maya. This time there was no disguise over the anger. After he left, Maya realized her hands were steady. That surprised her. The fear had not vanished. It had burned down into something harder. At 10:22, Hale found her alone in the supply room. Maya was pulling sterile gauze from the cabinet when the door opened behind her. She knew it was him before she turned. The air changed. He closed the door. You have made a very serious mistake. Maya placed the gauze on the shelf. Which one? His eyes narrowed. Do not be clever. I'm not trying to be. You contacted a family member without authorization. You performed an unapproved maneuver on a vulnerable patient. You manipulated a grieving man into seeing intention where none exists. Maya turned fully. Caleb moved. Caleb exhibited motor activity. In response to his father's voice. In response to stimulation you were not authorized to apply. Maya let a beat pass. Why was his last assessment performed near peak sedation? Hale's expression froze. She continued. Why are EEG lead placement checks incomplete? Why were ventilator-triggered breaths dismissed without review? Why has his sedation increased twice, despite no documented distress event? Hale stepped closer. You are far outside your depth. Then answer simply. His voice dropped. You are a nurse. Yes. You do not interpret EEGs. You do not determine brain death. You do not dictate neurological care because a thumb twitch gave you feelings. Maya looked into his eyes. No, I document what I see. And what I see is a patient whose body keeps contradicting your chart. For a second the mask slipped. Not anger. Fear. It was quick, but Maya saw it clearly. Hale opened the door. When Dr. Shaw confirms my findings, I will file a formal complaint. Scope violation. Family interference. Insubordination. You will not survive the review. Maya picked up the gauze. If Dr. Shaw confirms your findings, I will accept that. He paused in the doorway. Maya added, will you? He left without answering. By mid-afternoon, Dr. Briggs confirmed that Dr. Evelyn Shaw had agreed to come from Baltimore on an early flight the next morning. Temporary consulting privileges were being arranged under pressure from the Admiral's office. The unit pretended not to know. Everyone knew. Maya checked Caleb's medication record at 3:40 p.m. Midazolam increased. The new order had been entered at 2:58. Authorized by Dr. Victor Hale. Indication patient comfort. Maya stared at the screen. Her pulse slowed in the dangerous way it did before action. There was no documented agitation, no seizure activity, no respiratory distress, no pain response, no nursing note requesting escalation. He had increased sedation after the Admiral demanded outside review. Maya took out her phone and photographed the screen. Then the medication administration record. Then the infusion pump with the new rate visible beside the patient label. She found Linda at the nurse's station. "Look at this." Linda took the phone. The color left her face slowly. When was this entered? 2:58. Linda looked toward Hale's office. Damn him. It was the first honest thing Maya had heard her say. "Will you document the absence of distress?" Linda's eyes lifted. For a moment, 23 years of survival stood between them. Then Linda handed back the phone. "I'll chart what I assessed. That's all I'm asking." "No," Linda said quietly. "It isn't." Maya did not deny it. That night, Maya stayed late under the excuse of finishing notes. At 11:46 p.m., Erin Doyle called from the unit. Her voice was thin. Hale was just in 608. Maya sat up in her parked car, rain hammering the windshield. "What did he do?" "I don't know." He closed the door. "Check the medication log." The line went quiet except for keyboard clicks. Then Erin whispered he added lorazepam. 2 milligrams. IV. Indication says comfort. Maya closed her eyes. The rain kept falling. "Print the original record," she said. "The uneditable one. And write down exactly what you saw." "Maya, I can't get pulled into this. You already are. The only choice left is whether you leave footprints." Erin was silent. Then she said, "I'll print it." Maya started the engine. The hospital lights shimmered through the rain ahead of her. Inside. Room 608. Caleb Whitaker lay under another layer of silence a doctor had ordered into his veins. Maya tightened both hands on the wheel and drove back toward the building. Maya reached the hospital before midnight. The rain had turned the parking lot into black glass. Every light from the medical center trembled across the pavement, long and broken, as if the building itself had been split open and reflected in pieces. She parked near the staff entrance and sat for one breath with both hands still on the wheel. Inside, Dr. Hale had added another sedative. Inside, Caleb Whitaker had less voice than he had that morning. Inside, the independent neurologist was only hours away. Maya stepped out of the car with Caleb's file under her coat and crossed the lot without running. Running drew attention. Running made people ask questions. She had learned that in places where questions could get you killed. Move fast. Look calm. Keep breathing. The staff entrance clicked open under her badge. The night security guard looked up from his desk. Back again. Forgot documentation. He nodded, already bored. That was the gift of hospitals at night. Everyone saw strange things. Nobody had enough energy to chase them all. On the 6th floor, the unit lights were low. The nurse's station glowed blue from computer screens. Erin Doyle stood behind the counter with a folded stack of papers pressed flat beneath her palm. Her face looked pale in the monitor light. Maya walked to her. "Did you print it?" Erin slid the papers across the desk. Medication administration record. Original timestamp. Order entry. My note that Dr. Hale entered room 608 at 11:36 and left at 11:47. I signed it. Maya looked down. Midazolam increased earlier in the day. Lorazepam added at 11:40 p.m. Indication, patient comfort. No documented agitation. No seizure. No pain response. No instability. Maya's jaw tightened. "Thank you." Erin looked toward Caleb's room. "I almost didn't do it." Maya folded the papers carefully. "But you did." Erin wrapped both hands around her coffee cup. "I kept thinking about his father sitting in there this morning. I saw him through the glass. He was holding Caleb's hand like if he let go, someone would take him." Maya had no answer for that. Some sentences had to be left standing. She moved toward room 608. Caleb looked paler than he had that morning. His body lay heavy under the blanket, his face slack with medication. The ventilator continued its steady work. The blue rescue swimmer patch remained beside his pillow, but someone had moved it farther away, as if personal things were clutter. Maya placed it back near his cheek. "Hey, Caleb," she whispered. "I know you're tired." No movement. She checked the pump, checked the line, checked the pupils with her penlight, careful to perform only routine nursing assessment. The pupils reacted sluggishly, but they reacted. She wrote it down. Then she stood beside him and watched his chest. The machine delivered a breath, then another. Then a pause, almost nothing but enough for her eyes to narrow. The ventilator registered patient effort. Small. Brief. There. Maya looked at the screen and marked the time. 12:08 a.m. "You're still fighting," she said. His hand did not move, but the line on the ventilator had. At 5:52 a.m., the hospital changed before the sun came up. Admiral Whitaker walked through the main lobby in full dress uniform. This time he wanted to be seen. White jacket, gold stripes, ribbons in tight rows, polished shoes, face set like carved stone. He crossed the lobby as if it were the deck of a ship, and every person who looked up understood that something inside the building had already gone wrong. Maya met him at the elevator on the 6th floor. The doors opened. He stepped out. His eyes went straight to her hands. "Show me." She handed him the medication records. He read them without speaking. Maya watched the anger move through him. It did not explode. It organized itself. That made it more dangerous. "He added another drug after midnight," the Admiral said. "Yes, sir," after knowing Dr. Shaw was coming. "Yes?" His fingers tightened around the page. "How is Caleb?" More suppressed than yesterday. But he triggered the ventilator once after midnight. His pupils still respond. I documented both. The Admiral folded the papers once and placed them inside his jacket. "Where is Hale?" "I do not know." "Good." The elevator behind him chimed again. Dr. Alan Briggs stepped out, flanked by a hospital attorney Maya had seen only once before. The attorney wore a gray suit and the brittle expression of a man entering a room already on fire. Admiral Whitaker Briggs said, "We are coordinating Dr. Shaw's arrival now." The Admiral turned. "You are coordinating because I forced the issue. Do not mistake motion for cooperation." Briggs swallowed. The attorney stepped forward. "Sir, I'm Peter Lang, counsel for the hospital. We want to ensure all communication today remains clear and appropriate." The Admiral's eyes moved over him. "Then start by ensuring every record related to my son is preserved." "Of course." "I do not mean 'of course' as a courtesy phrase. I mean no deletions, no corrections without audit trail, no late addenda written to make yesterday look cleaner than it was." Lang's mouth tightened. "We follow federal record standards." The Admiral leaned closer. "You had better." At 7:58 a.m., Dr. Evelyn Shaw arrived. She was not what the room expected. No entourage, no dramatic entrance, no raised voice. She stepped off the elevator carrying a black leather bag and a hard-sided case of neurological instruments. She was in her late 50s with short gray hair, wire-rimmed glasses, and eyes that looked rested in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. She paused at the nurse's station. "I am Dr. Evelyn Shaw. Where is Caleb Whitaker?" Maya stepped forward. "Room 608. I'm Maya Reed." Dr. Shaw looked at her for one measured second. "You are the nurse who made the call." "Yes, ma'am." "Good. Walk with me." They entered Caleb's room together. The Admiral rose from the bedside chair. Dr. Shaw shook his hand, then turned immediately to Caleb. She did not begin with speeches. She began with the patient. She checked the ventilator settings. She reviewed the infusion pumps. She lifted Caleb's eyelids and checked his pupils. She touched the nail beds, the jaw, the sternum, the soles of his feet. She watched the monitor as if it were a witness that might lie if not stared down. Then she held out her hand. "The file." Maya gave it to her. Dr. Shaw opened the folder and read. The room went silent. She read the timeline, the voice memo transcripts, the medication history, the ventilator logs, the EEG summaries, Aaron's witness statement, Linda's note on the absence of documented agitation, Javier Morales' reports, the photographs of pump rates and order screens. Nobody interrupted her. Dr. Hale arrived at the doorway during the reading. He stayed there, arms at his sides, face clean of expression. Dr. Shaw did not acknowledge him until she finished the last page. Then she closed the folder. Who added lorazepam at 11:40 last night? Hale stepped into the room. I did. Clinical indication. Patient comfort. Dr. Shaw looked at Caleb, then back at him. Comfort from what? Hale's mouth barely moved. Patients with severe brain injury can demonstrate autonomic instability and distress responses. Did he? The order was preventative. Preventative sedation 8 hours before an independent neurological assessment. Hale's eyes cooled. You are implying improper motive. No, Dr. Shaw said. I am asking a question you have not answered. The room held still. Hale's voice tightened. There was no improper motive. Dr. Shaw opened the file again and removed the medication record. I see no nursing note documenting agitation. No respiratory distress. No seizure activity. No tachycardic episode requiring intervention. No pain response. No family request. No acute event. She looked up, so I'll ask again. Comfort from what? Hale did not answer. Peter Lang stepped forward from the hallway. Dr. Shaw, perhaps this discussion should occur in a conference room. No, she said. Lang blinked. Number. The patient is here. The medication was given to the patient. The patient's father is legal next of kin. The question belongs in the room. The Admiral's gaze remained fixed on Hale. Dr. Shaw turned to Maya. Was the morning midazolam dose administered? No, ma'am. It is due at 8. I held preparation pending physician review. I did not stop an active order. Dr. Shaw nodded once. Good distinction. Haley stepped forward. You cannot alter my medication plan without privileges. Dr. Shaw removed a folded document from her bag and handed it to Peter Lang. Temporary consulting privileges approved by Dr. Briggs at 7:32 a.m. Authority includes neurological assessment and immediate medication recommendations related to the assessment. Lang read the paper quickly. His face changed by a fraction. Dr. Shaw looked back at the pump. Hold the 8 o'clock midazolam until blood levels are drawn. Stop the lorazepam. Begin taper protocol after lab confirmation. Hale's jaw tightened. You are making that decision after being here less than 30 minutes. I am making that decision after reading 4 months of records and observing that the current sedative load invalidates the assessment I was asked to perform. She looked at Maya. Call the lab. Stat midazolam and lorazepam levels. Full metabolic panel. Arterial blood gas. I want respiratory therapy here. I want the EEG technician here with measuring tape and fresh leads. Maya moved at once. For the next 40 minutes, room 608 became something it had not been in months. Active. Not maintained, not watched, not passed by. Active. Respiratory therapy checked the ventilator sensitivity and confirmed 3 patient-triggered efforts overnight. The lab drew blood from Caleb's central line. The EEG technician arrived with a cart and a worried look. Linda Carver came in without being asked and stood near the wall arms folded silent but present. Dr. Shaw watched everything. When the EEG technician began removing the old leads, Dr. Shaw stopped him. Do not discard anything yet. Photograph placement before removal. The technician looked at Hale. Dr. Shaw's voice sharpened. Do not look at him. I gave the instruction. The technician swallowed. Yes, doctor. Maya took photographs with the hospital device. Linda took measurements and called them out. Frontal lead 1.8 centimeters off mark. Temporal lead 2.6. Occipital lead poor contact. Adhesive loose. Dr. Shaw wrote it down. Hale stood by the door, his face pale with contained fury. The Admiral watched in silence. When the new leads were placed, Dr. Shaw waited for the baseline to settle. The screen filled first with static, then slow waves, then something organized enough to make Maya feel the room tilt beneath her. Dr. Shaw leaned closer. There. Maya moved beside her. The lines rolled across the screen in slow, uneven rhythms. "Is that cortical activity?" Maya asked. "Yes." Dr. Shaw's voice remained calm, but her eyes had sharpened. Slow, suppressed, but organized. Hale spoke from the doorway. "Low-amplitude activity in severe brain injury is not unexpected." Dr. Shaw did not look away from the screen. "Correct. It is not unexpected in severe brain injury. It is, however, inconsistent with brain death." The Admiral closed his eyes. His hand found the bed rail. Dr. Shaw turned to him. "Admiral, I am not telling you your son will wake fully. I am not telling you what degree of recovery is possible. But I am telling you that based on what I have seen so far, the previous conclusion cannot stand." The Admiral opened his eyes. "Say the words." Dr. Shaw met his gaze. "Your son does not meet criteria for brain death." Hale's voice cut in. "That is premature." Dr. Shaw turned at last. "What is premature?" "Dr. Hale is conducting a definitive neurological assessment under active sedation without documented drug clearance. What is premature is relying on compromised EEG placement. What is premature is moving a family toward withdrawal, while contradictory respiratory data sits in the chart unaddressed." Hale's face hardened. "You are grandstanding." "No," Dr. Shaw said. "I am documenting." Maya felt those words settle into the room like a door locking. At 9:14, Dr. Shaw prepared to examine Caleb's command response. She stood beside his bed with the Admiral on the opposite side and Maya near the monitors. "Before I do this," Shaw said, "I want the room clear of unnecessary personnel." Peter Lang began to object. "You may observe from the hallway," Shaw said. Lang looked at Briggs. Briggs nodded weakly. Hale remained. Dr. Shaw looked at him. "You may stay if you remain silent." Hale's mouth tightened, but he did not leave. Maya took her position by the monitor. Heart rate 84. Oxygen saturation 94. Blood pressure stable. Dr. Shaw leaned close to Caleb's ear. "Caleb Whitaker, my name is Dr. Evelyn Shaw. I am here with your father. If you can hear me, I want you to move your right hand." Nothing. Maya watched the lines. Dr. Shaw placed her fingers at the left side of Caleb's neck. Her technique was precise. She found the pulse, shifted back, checked the monitor, then pressed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. She released. 5 seconds passed. 10. Caleb's hand remained still. The Admiral's face tightened, but he did not speak. 15 seconds. Then Caleb's fingers curled. Slowly. Weakly. Like each tendon had to cross a battlefield. His hand lifted. Not as high as before. The sedation held him down, but it lifted. Dr. Shaw watched without blinking. "Caleb," she said, "squeeze my hand." She placed her fingers in his palm. For a moment, nothing happened. Then his fingers closed around hers. Dr. Shaw's expression did not change, but Maya saw her other hand grip the bed rail. "Squeeze harder." Caleb's grip tightened. Barely. Enough. The Admiral turned away, pressing his fist against his mouth. His shoulders shook once. He steadied himself, but he did not look away for long. Dr. Shaw gently freed her hand. Documented purposeful motor response to verbal command following stimulation. Response present despite sedative burden. Hale spoke through his teeth. Subcortical motor activity can mimic intention. Dr. Shaw faced him. Then you should welcome further testing with sedation reduced and leads correctly placed. Hale did not answer. At 10:02, the blood levels returned. Maya took the printout from the pneumatic tube station and walked it straight to Dr. Shaw. Shaw read it once. Then again. Her face did not change. That made it worse. "What is it?" the Admiral asked. Dr. Shaw handed the page to him. "Midazolam level is more than twice the upper therapeutic range for routine sedation. Lorazepam is also present at clinically meaningful levels." The Admiral read the numbers as if they were coordinates for an enemy position. Could that suppress him? Yes. Could it make him appear less responsive than he is? Yes. Could it affect prior testing? If similar levels were present and not cleared absolutely? The Admiral looked at Hale. You drugged my son into silence. Hale's face flushed. That is an outrageous accusation. Maya expected the Admiral to step forward. He did not. He became very still. No, he said. It is a sentence waiting for evidence. Dr. Shaw placed the lab report into the file. The evidence is accumulating. By noon, the hospital had begun defending itself. Peter Lang called Maya to a second-floor conference room. She entered with her badge clipped straight and her hands empty. The room had glass walls and a long table polished so brightly it reflected the ceiling lights. Lang sat at one end. Denise Morrow from Human Resources sat beside him. Dr. Briggs stood by the window looking as if he wanted to be anywhere else. Lang gestured to the chair. Please sit. Maya remained standing. I'm on duty. This will not take long. That depends on whether you are asking questions or building a file. Denise's pen stopped moving. Lang's expression thinned. A formal complaint has been raised regarding your conduct in the Whitaker matter. The Whitaker matter is a patient. Your conduct includes unauthorized contact with a family member, performance of an unapproved clinical maneuver, interference with physician orders, and insubordination. Maya looked at Dr. Briggs. Has Dr. Shaw submitted her preliminary findings? Lang answered before Briggs could. This meeting concerns you. Convenient. Denise looked up. Ms. Reed, I would advise you to take this seriously. I am. That is why I contacted the patient's father. Lang folded his hands. You admit it. Yes. You admit contacting Admiral Whitaker without physician approval. I contacted the legal next of kin after observing possible command following that the attending physician refused to reassess. You performed a procedure without an order. I applied brief manual pressure during an assessment. No medication, no incision, no device, no lasting intervention. If this hospital wants to classify 2 fingers on skin as a procedure, I would like the policy cited. Denise's pen moved again slower now. Lang leaned back. You are not helping yourself. Maya looked at him. I am not the patient. The room went quiet. She continued. Caleb Whitaker showed purposeful response this morning in front of Dr. Shaw. His EEG leads were incorrectly placed. His sedative levels are above therapeutic range. Dr. Hale increased sedation after being notified of outside review. The prior brain death conclusion is compromised. If your first institutional response is to discipline the nurse who documented it, that also belongs in the record. Dr. Briggs finally turned from the window. Maya. No one is trying to punish patient advocacy. Maya faced him. Then do not punish it. Lang closed the folder in front of him. You are being placed on administrative leave pending review. Maya nodded once. Effective when? Immediately. She took out her phone. I am calling Admiral Whitaker before I leave the building. Lang's face tightened. That would be inappropriate. No. Removing the nurse monitoring a sedation taper in the middle of a contested neurological reassessment is inappropriate. This is notice. She stepped into the hallway and made the call. The Admiral answered on the first ring. Maya. They suspended me. Silence. Who? Lang H.R. Briggs. Stay where you are. The call ended. Maya stood in the hallway outside the conference room and looked at the framed photograph on the wall. It showed the hospital at sunset, all glass and flags clean and proud. Under it was a plaque about service, honor, and commitment. 11 minutes later, Lang opened the conference room door. His face was different now. Ms. Reed. Yes, your administrative leave has been deferred until completion of the independent neurological review. Maya placed her phone in her pocket. Am I cleared to return to my patient? A muscle moved in his jaw. Yes. She walked back to the elevator. On the 6th floor, Linda was waiting outside room 608. They tried it, Linda asked. Yes. Linda shook her head. That man makes fast calls. Maya looked through the glass. Dr. Shaw stood at Caleb's bedside reviewing the fresh EEG printout. The Admiral sat close, one hand on his son's forearm. Caleb's face remained still, but something in the room had shifted. It was no longer a room waiting for death. It was a room under protection. Maya entered quietly. Dr. Shaw looked up. "Good, you are back. For now, that is usually enough." She handed Maya the printout. At first, Maya saw only lines. Then Dr. Shaw pointed. Brief alpha burst at 11:48 following auditory stimulus. Maya looked closer. Wakefulness. A trace of it. Not sustained, not strong, but yes, a pattern associated with arousal. The Admiral heard and looked up. Dr. Shaw spoke carefully. "Admiral, this is not a full awakening. It is a signal, a small one." The Admiral placed his hand over Caleb's. "This family has learned not to despise small signals." Caleb's index finger moved beneath his father's palm. Everyone saw it. No one spoke. Dr. Shaw marked the time. Maya moved closer to the bed. "Caleb," she said softly, "we're still here." His finger moved again. The monitor kept recording. The EEG kept writing its slow, imperfect truth across the screen. In the doorway, Dr. Hale stood unnoticed for several seconds. His face was pale now, the fury drained into something emptier. Then Dr. Shaw looked up and saw him. "Dr. Hale." She said, "I need the original raw EEG files, the calibration logs, the apnea test documentation, and every medication justification note from the past 30 days. Hale did not move. Dr. Shaw removed her glasses and cleaned them with a cloth from her pocket. Now, Hale looked at Caleb, then at the Admiral, then at Maya. For the first time since she had met him, he seemed to understand that the room no longer belonged to him. He turned and left. Maya watched him disappear down the hall. Behind her, Caleb's finger pressed once into his father's palm, then released. The movement was small enough that anyone outside the room would have missed it. A finger pressing into a father's palm. A weak signal from a body still buried under injury medication and 4 months of wrong assumptions. But inside room 608, no one moved as if it were small. Admiral Nathan Whitaker stared at his son's hand. Dr. Evelyn Shaw marked the time on the EEG printout. Maya Reed stood at the foot of the bed and felt the floor steady beneath her for the first time in days. Caleb's finger had answered again. Not for Dr. Hale, not for a committee, not for a form. For his father. The room was quiet except for the machines. The ventilator breathed, but now it sounded different to Maya. Less like a machine keeping a body from leaving. More like a bridge, holding long enough for someone to cross back. Dr. Shaw leaned toward the monitor. "Again, Caleb," she said, calm and close. "If you hear me, press your father's hand." The Admiral did not breathe. Maya watched Caleb's fingers. 10 seconds passed. 20. The monitor ticked steadily. Then Caleb's index finger moved. It pressed once. The Admiral closed his eyes, his face tightening as if something inside him had split open and light had come through. Dr. Shaw wrote again. Purposeful response repeated to verbal command. Delayed but present. Maya looked at the EEG. The lines moved slowly, unevenly, but not emptily. The brain was not shouting. It was not even speaking clearly. But it was there, sending fragments through the static. Dr. Shaw turned to Linda Carver, who stood near the doorway with her arms folded so tightly her knuckles had gone pale. "I want continuous EEG for 24 hours. No sedative escalation without my direct approval. Midazolam taper continues. Lorazepam remains stopped. Respiratory therapy logs every patient-triggered breath. Nursing documents every command, every delay, every response, and every absence of response." Linda nodded once. "Yes, doctor." Her voice was rough. Maya noticed, but said nothing. There were times when silence was avoidance. There were other times when silence was the only mercy a person could offer someone whose conscience had finally woken up. By evening, Caleb's room had become a controlled battlefield. Not loud, not frantic, controlled. Fresh leads sat cleanly against his scalp. Lab results were clipped to the chart. Ventilator logs printed every 2 hours. Dr. Shaw reviewed each page before it could vanish into the system. The Admiral remained beside the bed jacket off sleeves, rolled up one hand, always near his son. Dr. Hale did not return to room 608. His absence had its own shape. At 7:20 p.m., the hospital's chief medical officer came in with Peter Lang from legal. Dr. Briggs looked 10 years older than he had that morning. Lang carried a folder, but he held it low against his body, as if paper had become dangerous. Admiral Briggs said the hospital is initiating an internal review of the circumstances surrounding Caleb's neurological assessments. The Admiral did not look away from his son. Internal is not enough. Briggs swallowed. We are also notifying the appropriate federal oversight channels. Dr. Shaw glanced up from the EEG. You should preserve all raw data. Medication records, device logs, access records, and chart audit trails. Any delayed amendment after this point will be obvious. Lang's face tightened. Dr. Shaw, the hospital understands its obligations. Dr. Shaw looked at him over her glasses. People often understand obligations most clearly after they fail them. No one answered. Maya stood near the infusion pump checking the taper rate. She felt Lang glance at her. He looked away before she could meet his eyes. At 8:03 p.m., Caleb triggered the ventilator again. Respiratory therapy confirmed it. Patient effort. Then at 8:17 again. At 8:41 a third time. Each one was documented. Each one was printed. Each one was placed into the growing file that no administrator could soften with careful language. The Admiral leaned close to Caleb after the third breath. "That's it, son," he whispered. "You keep pulling, you hear me? You keep pulling." Caleb's eyelids did not open, but beneath them his eyes moved. Maya saw it. So did Dr. Shaw. So did Linda, who turned away for a moment and pressed her fingers against the bridge of her nose. Near midnight, Maya found Linda in the medication room. Linda stood facing the shelves, staring at rows of labeled vials without seeing them. The harsh light made every line in her face visible. Maya entered quietly. "You okay?" Linda gave a short laugh with no humor in it. "Number." Maya waited. Linda picked up a saline flush, then set it back down. "I checked the old EEG logs." Maya said nothing. Linda continued, her voice low. Lead placement documentation was missing on 4 checks. Contact quality was flagged twice. No follow-up note. No second verification before the last assessment. She swallowed. "I signed off on one of those shifts." Maya leaned against the counter. "Did you place the leads?" "Number." "Did you interpret the EEG?" "Number." Linda turned sharply. "Do not make this easy for me." Maya closed her mouth. Linda's eyes were wet, but she did not let tears fall. "I have worked this floor for 23 years. I have told young nurses not to make waves. I have told families to trust the process. I have watched doctors walk out of rooms too quickly and told myself they knew more than I did." Her voice cracked once, then steadied. "I knew something was wrong with that room. Not what, not enough to say it, but enough that I stopped looking too closely." Maya looked at her carefully. "Why?" Linda stared at the floor. "Because I am tired. Because I am 18 months from retirement. Because every time someone challenges a man like Hale, the hospital chews them down to bone and calls it professionalism." She wiped at one eye angrily. "And because it is easier to survive a place when you stop expecting it to be brave." Maya let the words sit between them. Then she said, "You documented today." Linda nodded. "Too late. Not for Caleb." Linda looked up at her. That landed. Not as forgiveness, as something harder. A fact. From the hallway came the soft alarm of an IV pump reaching pause. Maya pushed away from the counter. Linda stopped her before she left. "Maya." She turned. Linda struggled with the words, then gave up on making them polished. "I was wrong about you." Maya met her eyes. "You were trying to keep me alive in the system. I was trying to keep you quiet." Maya accepted that with a small nod. "Both can be true." Linda looked down, then reached for a clipboard. "Go check your pump. I'll print the next ventilator log." Maya left the medication room without smiling, but something in her chest loosened. By morning, Caleb's sedation level had dropped. Not gone, not safe enough for miracles, but lower. His face looked different in a way Maya could not chart. Less gray, less distant. The muscles around his eyes moved more often. His breathing began to push against the ventilator with a rhythm that sounded almost impatient. Dr. Shaw stayed through the night in a chair near the monitors, waking every 30 minutes without an alarm. The Admiral did not sleep at all. At dawn, Maya found him standing at the window with Caleb's rescue swimmer patch in his hand. Portland was pale beneath a low sky. The rain had stopped, leaving the glass streaked and shining. He hated hospitals, the Admiral said. Maya checked the IV line. Most people do. No. Caleb hated them because everyone whispered. His thumb moved over the patch. When he was 12, his mother was in oncology for 6 weeks. He used to stand in her room and talk too loud on purpose. Said if the truth was bad, whispering only made it worse. Maya glanced at Caleb. Then let's not whisper. The Admiral turned. Maya stepped closer to the bed. Caleb, she said, clear and steady. It's Maya. Your father is here. Dr. Shaw is here. Linda is here. No one is turning anything off today. The Admiral moved to the bedside. Caleb's eyelids fluttered. Everyone froze. Not the quick tremor from before. This was slower, a struggle. The lids lifted a fraction, fell, then lifted again. Dr. Shaw stood. Maya, lights down. Maya dimmed the overheads. The Admiral bent close, his hand closing around Caleb's. Cal. Caleb's eyes opened halfway, clouded, unfocused, drowning in light. But open. The Admiral's face broke so completely that Maya had to look away for 1 second. Dr. Shaw moved into Caleb's line of sight. Caleb, my name is Dr. Shaw. Do not try to speak yet, just look toward your father. Caleb's eyes drifted, slow, unsteady. They passed over Maya, over the monitor, over the ceiling. Then they found the Admiral. Nathan Whitaker put one hand over his mouth, but the sound still came through. A broken breath. A father's name for relief. Caleb's lips moved around the tube. Dr. Shaw touched his shoulder. Easy. Do not fight the tube. Caleb's fingers tightened weakly around his father's hand. The Admiral leaned close. I'm here. I'm right here. A tear moved from the corner of Caleb's eye into his hair. Maya turned to the monitor and wrote the time because someone had to keep the world factual while it tried to fall apart. 6:42 a.m. Eyes open to voice. Visual tracking toward father. Hand squeeze present. By 9 o'clock the unit knew. No one announced it over the speakers. No one needed to. Hospitals moved information the way bodies moved pain, quietly through nerves. Erin cried in the supply closet and denied it when Maya found her. Dr. Patel stood outside room 608 for nearly a minute before stepping in. He looked at Caleb, then at Maya. I checked the ventilator settings, he said. I know. I should have done it sooner. Maya looked at his young, exhausted face. Yes, he accepted that. Dr. Shaw asked me to help pull the raw EEG files. Then pull everything. He nodded. I am. At 10:32, federal investigators arrived from the Office of Inspector General. They did not raise their voices either. They wore plain suits and carried sealed evidence bags. One was a woman named Special Agent Harris. The other introduced himself as Investigator Cole. They spoke with Dr. Shaw first, then the Admiral, then Linda, then Erin, then Maya. When Maya sat across from them in a small consultation room, the coffee on the table had gone cold. Agent Harris turned on a recorder. Please state your name and position. Maya Reed. Registered nurse. Neurological ICU. Columbia River Veterans Medical Center. You initiated contact with Admiral Whitaker. Yes. Why? Maya rested her hands flat on the table. Because I observed possible purposeful response in Caleb Whitaker, reported it to the attending physician, and reassessment was refused. Withdrawal planning was moving forward. I believed delay could result in irreversible harm. Cole looked up. You understood contacting the family could risk your job. Yes? Did that influence your decision? Yes. How? Maya thought about that. It made me document better. Agent Harris watched her for a moment, then looked down at the file. Tell us everything from the first thumb movement. So Maya did. She did not make herself heroic. She did not make Hale monstrous. She gave times, words, locations, orders, responses, and names. When she did not know, she said she did not know. When she had suspected, she called it suspicion. When she had seen, she called it observation. The recorder took all of it. When the interview ended, Agent Harris switched the device off. Do not discuss your statement with hospital counsel before we contact you again. I understand. Cole gathered the papers. One more thing, Nurse Reed. Maya looked at him. He glanced toward the ICU. Good documentation saves more than lawsuits. Maya did not answer. She did not need to. Near noon, Dr. Hale appeared at the end of the 6th-floor hallway with 2 administrators and a security officer walking behind him. He wore the same tailored suit, same polished shoes, same controlled face. But something had changed. No one moved out of his way quickly enough. No one lowered their eyes fast enough. Authority is partly performance. The room had stopped clapping. Maya stood outside room 608 as he approached. He stopped several feet from her. You must be proud, he said. His voice was quiet. Maya looked at him. Number. Of course. Humility suits the moment. She said nothing. Hale glanced through the glass. Caleb lay with eyes closed again, resting after the morning's effort. The Admiral sat beside him. Dr. Shaw reviewed a page at the foot of the bed. They will make me the villain, Hale said. Maya kept her voice calm. I did not make your orders. You think this is simple because you saw a hand move. Number. You think medicine is about instinct. Number. He looked at her sharply. Then what do you think? Maya stepped closer, lowering her voice so only he could hear. I think medicine is hard. I think brain injury is cruel. I think uncertainty scares people who are used to being certain. I think you made a call too early, then protected the call harder than you protected the patient. For the first time, Hale had no immediate answer. Maya continued, I think you were wrong before you were guilty. Then you had a chance to stop being wrong. His eyes changed. Anger, shame, fear, all of it passed through. Then the mask returned. You will learn, he said, that hospitals do not reward people like you for long. Maya looked past him to Caleb's room. I was not asking the hospital. Security stepped forward gently. Dr. Hale. He gave Maya one last look, then turned and walked toward the elevators. No shouting, no confession, no dramatic collapse. Just a man leaving a floor that had once belonged to him. At 3:15 p.m., Dr. Shaw finished her preliminary report. The Admiral, Maya Linda, Dr. Briggs, and Peter Lang stood inside room 608 while she read the summary aloud. Caleb Whitaker demonstrates organized cortical activity, purposeful motor response to verbal command, visual tracking, spontaneous respiratory effort, and improving arousal with reduction of sedative burden. Prior brain death determination was performed under conditions that did not meet accepted standards due to active sedative influence. Insufficient documentation of drug clearance compromised EEG-led placement, and failure to reconcile contradictory respiratory data. The Admiral stood very still. Dr. Shaw turned the page. Recommendation. Immediate withdrawal of prior brain death language from the chart. Continued ventilatory support. Transfer to specialized traumatic brain injury rehabilitation facility when medically stable. Full external review of attending physician decisions, medication, escalation, and institutional oversight. She placed the report on the bedside table. The room remained quiet. Peter Lang looked as if each word had taken money from the walls. Dr. Briggs cleared his throat. Admiral. On behalf of the hospital, I want to say we are committed to understanding how this happened. The Admiral turned to him. My son is not a case study in how this happened. He is the man it happened to. Briggs looked down. Yes, sir. Caleb stirred. The sound was small. A faint movement against the tube. The Admiral turned immediately. Maya stepped closer as Caleb's fingers moved against the blanket. Dr. Shaw leaned over him. "Caleb, you are safe. Blink once if you hear me." A pause. His eyelids lowered, opened. One blink. The Admiral laughed once. It broke halfway into a sob. Maya felt tears rise and forced herself to chart. Blink to command. Present. By the next morning, Caleb was stable enough for transport planning. Not free, not healed, not returned. Stable. That word could sound small to people who had never fought for it. To Maya, stable was a victory with muddy boots. A neuro-rehabilitation center in Colorado accepted him. The transfer team would arrive by air medical transport at 6 p.m. The Admiral spent the afternoon on calls with specialists, family, and military contacts. Dr. Shaw coordinated the receiving physician. Linda made sure every record was copied twice. Maya stayed with Caleb through most of the day. At 4:40 p.m., his sedation had been reduced enough for longer periods of awareness. His eyes opened occasionally, unfocused but searching. The breathing tube remained, so speech was impossible, but Dr. Shaw arranged a simple communication board. Yes, number. Pain, tired. Father. Maya stood beside him as the Admiral held the board. Cal, the Admiral, said, "Do you know where you are?" Caleb's eyes moved slowly. Number. The Admiral swallowed. "You are in Portland. You were hurt. You have been asleep a long time." Caleb blinked once. Maya watched his fingers. They twitched toward the board. The Admiral moved it closer. Caleb's hand trembled, lifted half an inch, and fell near one word. Tired. The Admiral smiled through tears. "Yes, son, I bet." Maya adjusted the blanket. Caleb's eyes shifted to her. For the first time, she felt him looking at her, not through her, at her. His hand moved again, not toward the board, toward her. Maya stepped closer and placed 2 fingers in his palm. His grip closed faintly. The Admiral looked at her. "He knows you." Maya's throat tightened. "Maybe he just knows I'm loud." Caleb's eyelids flickered. It might have been fatigue. It might have been agreement. The Admiral laughed softly, and the sound changed the room more than any monitor. At 5:45, the transport team arrived. They moved with the efficient gentleness of people who understood fragile victories. Lines were secured. Ventilator settings matched. EEG leads removed after final recording. The rescue swimmer patch was placed in a clear bag and taped to the transport folder at the Admiral's request. Maya walked beside the bed as they rolled Caleb down the hallway. Staff stepped aside. Some watched openly. Some pretended not to. Aaron stood near the nurse's station with red eyes. Dr. Patel stood beside respiratory therapy holding the final ventilator printout. Linda remained at the elevator, arms crossed, face stern, but when Caleb's bed passed, she touched the side rail with 2 fingers. "Keep fighting, kid," she whispered. Maya heard it. So did the Admiral. The elevator ride was slow. Too many people. Too much equipment. Too much history pressed into a small steel box. Caleb's eyes opened once during the descent. The Admiral leaned into view. Almost out, son. Caleb blinked. The ambulance bay doors opened to evening rain. Portland smelled of wet asphalt and cold air. The sky had settled into a deep blue-gray. The medical transport vehicle waited with its rear doors open, lights flashing silently against the pavement. The team loaded Caleb carefully. The Admiral climbed in after him, then stopped and looked back. "Maya." She stepped forward. He climbed down again, standing in the rain without seeming to notice it. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then he reached into his coat pocket and removed a small metal coin. It was worn at the edges, warm from his hand. On one side was a rescue swimmer emblem. On the other, Caleb's initials had been engraved. He carried this through training, the Admiral said. Said it reminded him that panic is just the body asking for leadership. Maya looked at the coin but did not take it. "Sir, I can't." "You can. It belongs with him." The Admiral glanced back at Caleb. "He told me once that if he ever froze in the water, the person who came for him should carry it next." Maya's eyes burned. "I almost did not make the call. But you did. I was scared." Good, he said. Fear means you knew the cost. He placed the coin in her palm and closed her fingers around it. Thank you for hearing him. Maya looked through the open ambulance doors. Caleb's eyes were half open. His hand lay on the blanket. Slowly, with visible effort, his thumb lifted. Not high, not steady, but up. Maya laughed through a breath she had been holding for 4 days. The Admiral turned and saw it. His face changed again, but this time grief did not win. The transport medic closed one door, then the other. The vehicle pulled away from the bay tires, whispering over wet pavement. Maya stood in the rain until the lights disappeared beyond the hospital entrance. Behind her, the building rose bright and clean against the evening sky. Somewhere inside, investigators were collecting records. Administrators were choosing words. Lawyers were measuring damage. Nurses were returning to rooms where other patients waited to be seen, really seen. Maya opened her hand. The coin rested in her palm, heavy and real. From the 6th floor, a window reflected the last red flash of the ambulance lights. Then the light was gone. Maya put the coin in her pocket and walked back inside.